will now begin the Q&A portion of the platform. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
This year we had coffee hours. Do you plan to continue coffee hours? And also, if you have any additional programs for the alumni, can you explain?
Yeah. So I definitely plan to continue coffee hours. I think that they were a really good way to meet alumni in a more intimate setting rather than like just alumni panel where there's everyone there. You got a chance to like ask them your own questions, talk one-on-one. So I do want to continue that. In terms of other events, perhaps we could hold another alumni-based general meeting. I was thinking something along the lines of inviting alumni back to maybe do a kind of competition between alumni and current students. I don't know what that competition would be, maybe games, maybe like a trivia competition, but something like that, maybe in addition to alumni panel, which I obviously continue to, or want to continue doing.
As secretary, you are in charge of being the mediator between board members. And so if there was a conflict, how would you handle it?
I think in terms of mediating, I would privately ask both parties their side of the story and then bring them together to discuss and have them have an open conversation about how they can fix it. And if they still haven't came to an agreement on their own, that's when I would interject with my thoughts on how they should handle it, and definitely not leave until the conflict was resolved. Claire?
A follow-up question to Alvin. With that conflict, would you just discuss it with only exec board, or the entire board?
I would discuss it with the entire board, but I think it also depends on who it involves. If it's an exec board, I would probably want to keep it an exec board just to prevent, people to take sides outside of that conflict. So if I can keep it as small as possible, that's probably what I would do. But if I was unable to solve the conflict by myself, I would definitely consult my board.
The week at a glance graphic was originally a duty of the publicity director, but because we only had one publicity director, the secretary took it on. Do you plan on making the WAG yourself, or would you like the publicity director to design it and you would just put it in the email?
I would like to continue making the WAG. Personally, I really like doing it just because, like I said in my platform, I really enjoy seeing everything we have going on during the week. But I like the design of it, and I would probably work with my publicity director to do the design of it. But in terms of like weekly making it and sending it out, I would put that on myself. John?
Critique the current secretary.
I think our current secretary has done a great job. If I were to have one critique, it would be, I think about coffee hours. I think that they could have a bigger turnout. That's easier said than done, obviously, but I think that we should push for a higher turnout at those and also have a more set, maybe conversation topics or like how to guide it, because it sometimes felt like there were lulls in the conversation where there was nothing to say, and then so I think guiding the conversation more, guiding the event more, could have been done a little bit.
About the coffee hours and you guiding the conversation, how would you prevent it from merely being another alumni panel where you're just asking questions and expecting the alumni to answer?
Yeah. So to prevent that from happening, because like you said, alumni panel is really just us asking questions to alumni. So I would maybe try talking to the alumni beforehand about things that they could do during lulls too, because I think they could also ask us questions if they wanted to. So maybe have a portion where they ask us questions, or have my own like set of questions to kind of break the ice in a way.
Are there any changes or improvements you'd make to the current Fusion newsletter?
Aside from my addition of member spotlight, I don't know how regular it'd be, whether that's monthly, weekly, depending on how many general members we have next year. Other than that spotlight, I don't think I would change or make any changes to it.
So you touched upon bridging the gap between the engineering comic students and the student and general member or general meetings. Could you expand a little bit upon what you feel the reason for that disconnect is?
Yeah.
And for that reason, how do you think that can be improved upon?
Yeah, I just think like Fusion's a really big organization, and I feel like there is a bit of a disconnect because there are some people who just joined for engineering project, and there's people who just joined like to come to general meetings, but we're all part of the same club at the end of the day. So I just want to like, oh, if you see that person in class, you're like, oh, they're in Fusion too, and then you would be more inclined to talk to them because, you know, we're a community at the end of the day. So that's why I want to bridge the gap. And sorry, can you repeat the second part of your question?
Well, I think you kind of answered it. It was like, how would you improve bridging the
Yeah,
gap?
so that's kind of my goal with the spotlight, is to spotlight people who are in engineering projects and who come to general meetings, so that when you read the email and you see a familiar face maybe in your class who you didn't know was in the same organization as you, but it turns out that they're just an engineering project and you're not part of the engineering project, then you're like, oh, they're part of the same organization as me, and you might be a little inclined to talk to them or start a conversation. Fun.
As secretary, a lot of the work the secretary has to do also depends on others starting their work. How will you handle it when others don't start theirs and delay your work being started?
So I think once I understand my deadlines, I would reach out to them before the deadline hits, and then regularly, and then as time goes on, more frequently, reach out to them. And then if they don't do it, I'll be more strict if I have to. I'm not afraid to do that and be communicative, but obviously in a respectful way, because at the end of the day, our work is for Fusion as a whole, so like it benefits and affects all of us. So I would make it clear that like them being wavy with deadlines is kind of affecting everyone, and hope that that comes through. If not, I'm willing to talk to my president and the rest of the executive board to get help with that.
Have you experienced any work of secretaries from other organizations or other schools? And if so, what were your thoughts on that?
No, I haven't had experience as secretary in any organizations. I was vice president of my science Olympiad club in high school. I didn't do much secretary work, like keeping minutes during meetings, but I know what they did and I've seen what they've done, and I have shadowed since fall quarter. So I'm confident that like I do have the experience to succeed in this position next year.
As an executive board member, there should be a clear distinction of executive board and appointed board in the way that executive board is clearly supporting appointed board. So how would you ensure this?
Like how would I ensure to support or keep the line?
Both.
Okay, so in terms of supporting appointed board, I would definitely make sure everyone has a way to contact me, and then make myself available at any time if they need me. And if, like, to prevent burnout, if they need someone to like support them, pick up their work at any time during the quarter if they really need it, I will try my best to make myself available and able to do more and help them. And then in terms of keeping the line between like executive board and appointed board, I think that the best way of doing that is just making sure that there's a mutual respect, I guess, between the two of us, because I think that being able for them to come to me to support them is the biggest part of it, because I can't support them if they don't come to me. So I think just making myself open to talking to them, listening to them, helping them is probably the biggest way that I would make myself available to support them. Daniel?
It may be more difficult in the secretary position, but what is one reason that you want to see the secretary?
I think I agree with Ethan. I think professionalism, and maybe there could be something with alumni there, because alumni could help us with professional events. So probably professionalism. So
What other time commitments do you want for next year?
other than obviously school infusion, I'm part of a research lab, but I've been in the research lab since fall also, and it hasn't interfered with infusion, and I will make sure, because I kind of do my own hours for it, so I'll make sure that my work with fusion doesn't interfere with the lab and vice versa.
Okay, the Q&A portion is finished. It has concluded. Thank you, Justine, for your platform.